And so I said, I had a Zoom with all of my singles just this week, is that for me to tell 16-year-olds to be celibate is one thing. A 37-year-old who's used to getting some, I need a different kind of gospel.
I need a different kind of gospel.
Yeah.
So the church ain't telling me nothing about sex toys. They ain't saying nothing about the church telling me to be celibate, but my gynecologist saying something got to happen down there because your stuff shutting down.
Do gynecologists really tell people that? I know they don't tell men that.
We got to have real gospel for grown-up. The church is not relatable to our generation and down. So you got to figure out, how am I relevant and how do I repackage?
I don't think there's anything wrong with being relevant. I think trying to repackage what is optimal for our flourishing is problematic, friends. Bryant also stated on the termination of babies, he is choice. This is such wonky theology.
That new birth and me are choice because Jesus is.
Right.
He said, behold, I stand at the door and knock. If you decide to let me in, that's pro-choice. God in the Garden of Eden said to Adam and Eve, all of these trees are available to you. I want you to pick those. I'm not putting this other tree behind barbed wire and the ADT alarm. Don't eat it, but that's your choice.
Yes.
Christianity in and to itself is choice.
That's not what that means. God's design for things is for our benefit. So when we talk about Christian ethic, Christian morality, all of it is for our best interest. All of it has our best interest in mind. How do I know this? Well, because God designed it. So if we're talking about something that the world often takes and twists and turns into something that could be glorious, like divorce. Let's just take divorce, for example. God doesn't like divorce. Now, do divorces happen? Yes. That doesn't mean that that's in his will, right? God doesn't like divorce. Why? We've gone over this. Sociologists have gone over this. Psychologists have gone over this. Optimal, it's ideal, it's the best for a child to be raised in a home with their biological mother and their biological father. That's ideal. So that means everything outside of that is non-optimal. It's not ideal. All of our social issues go back to what? A lack of a father figure in the home, a lack of a stable marriage, a lack of a stable home. Literally all of them. Think through that with me. Think through crime. Think through promiscuity. Right? Addiction. So when God designs things, right, Jesus said, it's for this reason a man shall leave his mother and father and cleave to his wife. It's with intentionality. And society will take it and flip it. And even some Christians will be like, well, we just grew apart and fell out of love. And, God told me it was okay. Like, I have to put myself first. And I'm not saying if there's abuse and there's cheating and adultery and all that kind of stuff, that's different. I'm just saying when you just fall out of love, we just grew apart. We became different people. Well, You may not know I make music, but I have a brand new song that just came out. Here's a quick preview.
I went from being a porn addict to sharing the gospel with a porn actress who was criticized for being low status by the same OnlyFans who treat us so lavish. I'm confused.
I swear y'all thought he did doing podcasts, hot takes. He still can rap.
Now, this is my first song that I've released in over a year, so I need you to go to Spotify, Apple Music, or wherever you consume music and stream Too Soon right now. Add it to your favorite playlist, share it with a friend. So hit the link in the description or go to RuslanToTheMoon.com to stream Too Soon now. I'll see you over there.
Oh, they got me with the dramatics. You knew that a moment cannot be static too soon.
Ruslan.
God's standard is God's standard. God's design is God's design. And when you do things outside of God's design, there's consequences. Now, granted, those consequences vary to different degrees, but there's consequences. Want to color outside of those designs, like outside of marriage, there's going to become consequences with that. Those consequences are all over. All over. We talk about this all the time. The higher someone's body count, number of partners, the least likely they are to be satisfied in a marriage. The more likely they are to get divorced. Who would have thought that God's ways were actually in our best interest? So you don't want to have a messy life. You don't want to have a messy wife. You don't want to have a messy home. You know what? It's probably in your best interest to keep your body count, the number of partners you have, as low as possible, preferably to 0 until you get married. Why? Because that's the way God designed it. He's trying to make room for the person that has already been active. They get divorced. And instead of saying, well, you need to go through some healing, you need to work through these things. Why? Well, because you should heal. No, well, you just don't understand. They're already getting some. So, we got to create another gospel for them. No, you don't. You actually need to preach the gospel to them and say, hey, you're saved by grace through faith alone. You're a child of God. God wants you to live accordingly. God wants you to act like his child. And you probably don't want to go out there and hop on Tinder and go start hooking up with dudes. Why? Because now you are hurting yourself. Not to mention the O gap in hookup culture, which for some reason, all these super duper progressive body positivity goobers fail to mention the O gap. Most women who hook up with random men don't have. Who would have thunk? When you do things God's way, you will be in God's will. That's not meant to oppress you. When I tell my son, don't put your freaking hand on the stove because the stove's hot. It's not the patriarchy. It's not toxic masculinity. It's not Ruslan's a domineering father. It's because I don't want him to burn his freaking hand. God wants to just keep all fun things away from you. I don't want to burn my hand. You won't let me. Why? You're so oppressive. No, it's because he loves you, you goober. He doesn't want to see you hurt. That's why he's saying, the stove's hot. You put your hand on the stove, you're going to burn your hand. And then you're going to be in pain. And yes, I'm going to be here for you. Yes, I'm going to love you through your stupidity. You don't need to go in the world and build your testimony, guys. You really don't. You don't need to go in the world and build your testimony. Follow Jesus. There's a reason, empirically speaking, for why God designed these things the way he did to function. We don't need to move the goalpost. We don't need to say, well, I know. Yeah, it's going to be harder for some of you. Yes, I get it. If you're in your 30s, it's going to be harder. Yeah. But you know what? There's people that deal with all types of proclivities that they shouldn't act upon. All types. You don't know some of the crosses people got to bear. Trust me, you don't know some of the things people got to suppress of some of the things God's working on them. You just got to keep it in your pants, fam. Other people was really suppressing some real stuff. I got some friends that they did some dark things. They didn't been through some dark things. They didn't went to prison for decades for some serious things. Okay? You think keeping in your pants is hard? Imagine flashbacks of drive-bys and seeing, right? Like, miss me with that. Hey, this clip is from our daily after party stream. If you enjoyed it, consider signing up for our Patreon community for only $5 a month, where you get access to the replays of our daily after party streams, as well as the uncut extended versions of our podcast, Discord access that's private, and a discount code for our merch store, only $5 a month. And ultimately, it's the best way to help us contextualize the gospel of Jesus using media, podcasting, and of course, YouTube. The link for that is in the description or in the pinned comment. The perks are amazing. You should get on there. It's only $5 a month. I'll see you over there, all right? Peace.